Next topic, I want to talk about Ollie Skipp for the next topic, because obviously he came in against Everton, played in that number 6 position, Ollie Skipp, and I guess there's been a bit. I would say some people were happy with his performance. There's a bit of a mixed reaction, I would say, to his performance against Everton. I thought he was pretty solid. I don't think he was incredible, and definitely not the level of other players we've seen in that position this season. And the question marks whether he's truly perfect for what we want in that position. But I did think he came in, was definitely an improvement of what we've seen from him so far this season. I think he looks a bit more comfortable in that position than he's been in the number 8 position. And obviously going into January, Basuma and Benedict are both going to be out in that position in that month. He did prefer him to Højbjerg on the weekend, which was a bit of an interesting decision, considering Højbjerg has been the one preferred in general in that position as a backup this season. So I guess the question, I'll go to Si first on this one. The question is for you: did Skipp do enough on Saturday for you to keep his position for the next game? And do you think, are you happy with him just like starting, maybe games there in January for the foreseeable while we have players out?
Yeah, definitely. I think for me, I've always been a fan of Skipp. There's always the argument that over the years we've had a certain level, and because of the kind of players that we've got in, some players maybe sometimes look like they're falling back or they're not at the level we want them to be, whatever reason that is. I think Skipp is a very intelligent defensive midfielder. I think it was a bit harsh for people to judge him on his slightly more attacking positions that he was put in. He, at the end of the day, he's coming in to play for the shirt and play for the team regardless. And some people just don't like playing in positions that they're not comfortable with, but he still tries to put a shift in. So a lot of people, and sometimes myself obviously included, can forget that. So we judge it on what's in front of us and how the rest of the team plays, or versus a player like Skipp. So for me, when Skipp's in that position and he's given games, and I mean consistency of games, there's not too many defensive midfielders out there that could be better than him. And I'm speaking from the heart there, because we've seen him come through the academy and everything. And when he was playing consistently, he was one of the top players, and everyone was like, "Oh, Skipp's out now. That's a shame." But then he's come back after all those injuries again. He's been thrown in the team at different positions, and people are on his back. And I think it's a bit of a shame, really, because we sometimes forget how good he can be or should be. And I think he showed glimpses of that at the weekend just gone. I was glad he started, because it was going to be a chaotic game against Everton, because they have got that form coming in, and he dealt with everything. I love the aggression of his challenges. Like, he's very accurate with his interceptions and his intelligence and getting that ball moving. He's not like the old Winks and all that. He's just keep passing sideways, this and never. He goes and wins the ball and tries to find a player immediately, like forwards, not backwards to goal or anything like this. So for me, like, obviously Bentancur would be obvious positions, Basuma, etc. But when you're talking about fringe players that you need to, first of all, play for the badge, and then secondly, put a decent shift in, he's right up there. And I think you'll see, and I'm really glad in a way that he has this opportunity over the next few weeks or month or whatever, he'll probably be starting them all, and hopefully so, because I think you'll start to see a really energized Skipp who's been playing where he's supposed to be played. And I think we'll reap the rewards of that, because the team is obviously unified as well, in the sense that they have confidence in each other and trust in each other. And there's certain players that come into the team in certain positions, you think, I can't necessarily pass it to them because I think they're going to mess up mentally. You think about it all the time as a player, and he's going to be one of those players that perhaps lets that freedom back to what we needed to get back to. I thought it was very interesting. When you're at the games, you maybe see it a bit differently because the cameras are slightly different angles, but I couldn't believe the fullbacks' positions were in central midfield on the circle. And it just identifies that when you've got decent defensive midfielders, you have the confidence for these players to really push forward that high line and everything like that. And when you talk about the Son positioning on the left, it's quite interesting, because if Son loses the ball, there's two players to pick it up. And that's how we get quite a few of our goals this season. So I think Skipp will have an instrumental point to make and an instrumental part to play as well in these coming weeks. And I'm just glad that he's going to get the time ahead. And then people can judge him after these few weeks, not just coming in for 10, 15 minutes and going, oh, he was useless, he couldn't do anything, and he's playing out of position. So let's see what he does in these next few games.
What do you think, Josh? Do you like, obviously Højbjerg in general has been preferred to Skipp in that number 6 position through the season. There are rumours that Højbjerg could be off in January, but we'll have to wait to see what that situation entails. But what did you think of Skipp? And are you comfortable with him retaining his place, or would you just put Højbjerg back in based on what you saw on Saturday?
It's another difficult one. I'd like to take this opportunity to say that I said Skipp would start, and I hope Ben's watching because we had that thing going. I got roasted in the group chat. Gavin, Ben telling me that he wouldn't start. I knew that the way that Ange was acting around him, he obviously likes him. He kept choosing him. He kept bringing him on when there was other players that he could have brought on. And I'm going to have I was quite down on Skipp, and I am still, but I'm a bit more neutral because what the Everton game did was make me think that maybe, even though Højbjerg has performed well sometimes, yeah, and he's the more mature player, he could obviously play for another top 6 club, I think. What it has been with Skipp is that, I've been extra worried about him, but now that I've seen him against Everton, I feel like if he has Romero, Van der Ven, Udogie and Porro next to him, then I think he can perform to a high level, because his problem for me is press resistance, yeah? I do get worried about him if he's pressed high a lot. But if he's got all those great players next to him, I think he'll be okay. So I don't know yet. I think Sai made a great point about, look, let's give him this run of games. He hasn't really had his chance properly. He's been playing in different positions. He hasn't played full games. I know he played Brentford at the start of the season, but and so let's give him this run of games. Let's see, because if he does come out the other side a bit better, and he could be our third choice 6 in emergencies behind Bentancur, behind Basuma, and he's homegrown, I'd love to keep him. And I always wanted Skipp to do well. It's always that homegrown thing, whatever. But I also, a few years ago, you remember when he was playing for the under-21s against Holland, and that video came out, and I made some outlandish comments to all my rival mates, people that were Arsenal fans and all that. I was like, watch Skipp. In 5 years, he's going to be starting for England. He'll be benching, I didn't say Rice. I can't remember who I said, but whoever was starting, he'll be benching Phillips. It'll be Rice and Skipp. And that's not panned out that way, but I still think there's a player in there. I do think he's suffered from his injuries a bit. He seems slightly less mobile, but there's something there. Let's give him this next few games. I'm happy for him to start, because Højbjerg frightens the life out of me. I do think he gets a bit of an easy ride. He always makes a mistake in a game, always. I know Skipp hasn't covered himself in glory at times, but there's always something he does. Even when we were 2-0 up against Man United, if you remember, he just passed the ball backwards and just, and he'd only just come on. He did that the other day. Sometimes you catch him jogging back. So
he did it for the Newcastle game as well, Josh.
Newcastle 4-0, yeah.
Yeah, and it's just forget it. Højbjerg is obviously not the future of this club. We might as well gamble on Skipp and give him a chance to be a homegrown squad player for us. So I definitely want to, but at the same time, I want to see him step up now. He's had enough chances now. He's not a junior player anymore. And I'm kind of 50-50, to be honest, if I had to TLDR it.
Yeah, I just feel like Skipp in this position he seems a lot more controlled than someone like Højbjerg. I feel like, especially for him, he definitely seems more comfortable playing that 6th position, where he does pick up the ball, has a bit more time and space to play it forward, pick out his passes. And I actually think when he had in that position when he has like the whole pitch in front of him, his passing range is pretty decent, and he's actually pretty good at like retaining possession, recycling the ball, that kind of thing. I agree with you, Josh. I do worry about him a bit when like maybe he's being pressed by better players, and I think that's even more difficult for him when he's in that number 8 position, where it's kind of he's going 100 miles an hour all the time, and he has to think even quicker in that position than when he does in the 6th position. And I think that it definitely hampers him a bit. I do feel just his skill set, his attributes do lend him to being a bit more effective in that number 6 position. Hopefully on Saturday, I wouldn't say he was unbelievable, but it was definitely a step in the right direction when it comes to his performance level this season. How do you feel about it, Brian? Do you see Skipp getting a run of games now? Is he going to be starting for the foreseeable in that position without Basuma or Bentancur? Or do you still think that with Højbjerg still around the club, he's still a better option right now in that position than Skipp?
So Josh just said about Skipp exactly what I was saying about the forward line just before. Skipp has played in so many different positions in different roles of midfield. It's just been right. We have a gap that needs filling. There you go, Skippy. Off you go. You do that. I think he deserves a run at 6. Do I think he's an Ange type player? Not at the moment, but I think could he develop into one? Maybe. And then I look at Højbjerg twofold. I'm a huge fan of Højbjerg. But we all go on about people playing Dyers and everything and saying if they haven't got a future at the club and they're leaving, why are you playing them? We need to stop doing this and we need to start keeping the players that are here. So is Højbjerg going in January? We don't know if he is. Why are we stumping Ollie Skipp and not giving him the game time so he gets that? And also, and I said this before with you, Sim, I think Højbjerg is an ace up the sleeve to come off the bench. Because whereas Skipp is mainly defensive and in the 6, Højbjerg can be more progressive if we need to attack. Højbjerg can also be a lot more defensive should we need to sit and hold on things. So I think coming off the bench, Højbjerg offers a lot more versatility and can have a bigger impact than the other way around. Than if Højbjerg starts and Skipp comes on, you're kind of losing a bit of Højbjerg's progressiveness. So I think at the moment, Ollie Skipp has to be the 6. Do I think Bentancur could do it better? Of course. Basuma, when he's on form, night and day to Skipp. But right here, right now, Ollie Skipp's got an opportunity. This is where Ange sees him. Let's see what he can do. And I honestly think that there is a player there. But you got to remember when we went to Leicester, Simeon, on that Bergwijn night, Ollie Skipp picked up an injury. And up until then, he'd been our midfielder of the season. He was absolutely awesome that season. Started off under Nuno and then obviously flourished under Conte. There is a player there. It's finding the position and not saying, like Josh said, okay, we've got an injury here, you go there, or no, you go here so we can get it. Let him play in his position that Anne sees him and let's see what he can do.
I spoke about this with Brian on the review after the Everton game, so I'll ask the other guys this question. The fact that Ange did go with Skipp over Højbjerg on Saturday, when by and large the season Højbjerg has been ahead of him, do you think that is a sign of maybe what's to come in January? I'll go to Josh for that one. Do you feel like the fact that Skipp was picked ahead of him on Saturday, is that telling for you in terms of potentially what Højbjerg's future might look like in January? Do you think that's an indication he might be close to leaving?
I think there's a chance that we just hang on to him anyway because of our midfield's problems, or like everyone being gone, Bentancur and Basuma. So I think we could just hang on to him anyway. But there's 2 factors. Number one, I do think at their best, Skipp is actually probably more of an Ange player there. At their very, very best. He's less mistake prone, and like Daigle was saying, Højbjerg is slightly more progressive in the fact that he can score and he can assist. You know, he's proved that over the years. Skipp isn't really that guy. But he's safer and more intelligent in defense. He's less likely to play that back pass and stuff like that. So I think at 6, he is probably more of an Ange player. So I think there's a chance that Ange is going, forget about all the transfer stuff. Actually, Skipp at his best is more the kind of player I want there anyway. So I'm going to pick Skipp. But at the same time, even if you're weighing up the transfer stuff, it's clear that Højbjerg isn't the future, whether it's in January or the summer. So, yes, that is probably a factor. Do I think it means Højbjerg is going in January? No, I don't think so. It's not that I don't think he's going. I just don't think that is the main factor. Do you know what I mean?
What do you reckon, Si? Do you reckon Skipp getting the start ahead of Højbjerg is any indication that Højbjerg might be close to leaving?
Possibly. I mean, I think Skipp starts purely from what Josh exactly said, and what I've said as well is there's a couple of mistakes in Højbjerg, and he has been the one that has been coming more often on than Skipp has, and arguably the most mature one that shouldn't really be doing these strange things. On the other side of the coin, I've loved Højbjerg every minute. I think he's an incredible professional, and there's a lot of comments, and I've seen it firsthand when we go to the games. He doesn't really get involved with celebrations. He goes straight down the tunnel after games. That is factually correct. And, are we looking at things a bit cynically there, potentially, but maybe not? I mean, in the sense that his body language is the fact that he's a professional player. Højbjerg is a fantastic player, a fantastic professional. And what I mean by that particularly is that he comes in, whether he's going or not, whatever his body language is after or before games, or whether he's, going in January, he comes in and puts a shift in. Sometimes it's not the best, but again, he's not consistently playing. So that always has an effect on any player. It doesn't matter who you are, it has an effect on you as a player. And in his mind, I think we've said it for a while, probably since the beginning of the season, when Ange came in with this new system, that maybe Højbjerg doesn't necessarily fit that. I think he still has a good job to come in and calm a game down, albeit that the Newcastle one was a bit weird because he came on to calm it down and made it more frantic by giving the ball away, which is a bit of a weird one. But this happens to players. Again, back to the consistency of playing. You can switch off from these things sometimes. I'd love Højbjerg to stay, but I just believe that he's going just from that body language aspect. And in that sense that if someone comes in for 15, 25 million, I don't think they're going to turn their noses away at that at all in that position, irrespective of all the players going in January. They will be looking at this opportunity with Skipp in these next few weeks to determine that as an answer to go, actually, we're all right here. And I think Skipp started that last game because Højbjerg doesn't have the legs for a full game. I think that's the only main reason behind it, potentially. And that's why Højbjerg does come in for those 10, 20 minutes. I don't think he's got the tenacity to play a whole game for whatever reason. A couple of seasons ago, fantastic at it, but I'm only going on what I've seen, in the last season. And I think that's why Skipp started ahead of him. I don't think there's anything cynical about it. But has clearly seen that Skipp has an ability to have an engine in him that can run that as much of the game as possible. But yeah, it's the bigger question is if he's going in January or not. I'm only going on body language to suggest that he is going. That's all I see in front of it. At the end of a game, when you've won, you're with the team and everything like this. He doesn't do that. He goes away. He's a professional in the sense that he's come in, he's doing his job. He can tick that box. That's all he needs to worry about. The camaraderies afterwards and the jumping around, dancing to the music after the game. Either he doesn't like that sort of stuff, or he's like, cool, I've done my job. I'm going back down the tunnel now. This is enough for me. And it's not a long-term vision in his head, and neither is maybe in Ange's, but we know both of them are very professional people, and that's what they want from each other, and they're getting it from each other as well. So you can't complain about it at all. But I do think he's probably off.